Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are going to do Ramadan for the Shafi'i madhab, inshallah. Ramadan is the ninth Islamic month on the calendar. So Islam works with the lunar calendars. So fasting in the month of Ramadan is the third pillar of Islam. And fasting for the entire month is compulsory upon every Muslim, male and female, who is sane and mature. Allah Ta'ala has promised great reward for those who fast and severe punishment for those who do not fast in the month of Ramadan. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whosoever breaks the fast for one day of Ramadan without an excuse or illness, fasting for your whole entire life will not compensate for it. So you have no excuse whatsoever, and you just decide that you don't want to fast. You will never ever be able to pay back that one day that you have missed without a valid excuse. When Ramadan comes, the doors of hell are closed and the devils are put in chains and the doors of mercy are opened. Whosoever fasts during Ramadan with faith and is hopeful of reward, all his past sins will be forgiven. And whoever stands up in Salah with faith and is hopeful of reward, all his past sins will be forgiven. And whoever stands up in Salah during the blessed month or during the blessed night of Laylatul Qadr, that is the night of power, with faith and is hopeful of the reward, all his past sins will be forgiven. The commencement of Ramadan. So Ramadan commences by the sighting of the moon on the 29th of Sha'ban, the month preceding Ramadan. So we are now in the month of Sha'ban. Today is the 15th of Sha'ban. So when we reach the 29th of Sha'ban, the men will go out, or whoever will go out to go and check and see if there's a sighting of the new moon. And if the moon is sighted, then the following day will be the 1st of Ramadan. If the moon is not sighted on the night of the 29th, then Sha'ban will have 30 days and the following day will be the 1st of Ramadan. So if the moon is not sighted, then Ramadan will commence on the day after the 30th of Sha'ban. The calculation of the astronomers independently are not considered when established the commencement of the term or termination of Ramadan. The moon has to be sighted for such a decision to be made. So they're saying the stars, we cannot look at the stars and determine whether Ramadan will be. Only the moon sighting will determine the month of Ramadan. So if a person traveled to such a place where the moon was sighted or later in the day and Ramadan was 30 days, he will fast until the end of Ramadan in that location. That is, he will fast for 31 days. So they're saying this man has been traveling, right? And he sighted the moon, he fasted. He started fasting in the one area and then he moved while he's traveling on, fasted 30 days, and then he came to another place and the Ramadan is not finished, and then he will be fasting for 31 days because he is a traveler traveling through different places. So he will follow the Ramadan calendar of that town or that city that he is currently in. So if he traveled to a place where they sighted the moon one day earlier and Ramadan was the 29 days, he fasts only for 28 days. So then he will make Eid al-Fitr with the people and make qada of the one day fast that he lost, basically. So they're just speaking about the traveler and the different circumstances that they might go through and what are the rulings for that. People exempted from fasting in Ramadan. The following people are exempted from fasting during the month of Ramadan. That is a sick person whose illness may increase due to fasting. A person who is a musafir, that is a traveler. The traveler whose journey is more than 81 kilometers at the time of Subuh Sadiq in the morning. All right. So when there is a genuine fear that hunger or thirst will lead to death, then you cannot fast. You are exempted from fasting. A woman who is experiencing a hayd and nifas, the masail is if a person becomes a musafir, that is a traveler, after the time of subuh sadiq, he cannot break his fast. And it is better for a musafir to fast as long as he will not experience unbearable difficulty in fasting. Because if you're traveling, the time zones are different in different countries. So they are saying you must continue fasting as long as it is bearable to fast. So if the person was conscious from subuh sadiq till sunset, sorry, unconscious, if the person was unconscious from subuh sadiq until sunset, he will make qada of the fast. And if he fell unconscious after the commencing the fast, so if he fell unconscious after the commencing the fast, and now there is the qada kafara of Ramadan. If a person did not keep the fast of Ramadan or broke it without any valid reason, then it is to make of it immediately. Please turn off your mic. Somebody's mic is still on. So if a person did not keep the fast of Ramadan or broke it without a valid reason, then it is compulsory to make qada of it immediately. Number two, if he did not keep the fast of Ramadan or broke it due to a valid reason, then it will not be compulsory to make the qada of it immediately. Instead, he may keep it anytime during the year as long as it is kept before the next Ramadan. If the qada, that is the must fast, if the qada was delayed beyond the next Ramadan, then together with making up for that must fast, he will also have to give fidya. And if the qada was delayed beyond the second Ramadan, the amount of fidya will be doubled. Hence, for every additional year delay, an additional 1 month must be given. So we should try our utmost best to pay back our days before the next Ramadan comes. So whatever fast we're going to miss in this month of Ramadan, due to valid reasons, if you are falling out or so on, or if you're really sick, you can't fast, those days we are going to try to pay it back before the next Ramadan comes in. Then you don't have to pay those added penalties. So if the person broke his fast because of having sexual intercourse, then together with making up for the missed fast, you will also have to give kafara for each fast. The kafara is only compulsory upon the male. In this case, it was the man who enticed the situation. And then the kafara is fasting for 60 days consecutively. So now if a situation like this happens, which we need to try not to let these things happen, but now they're saying whoever starts it, that person is basically going to pay the kafara, right? So for that 1 day of this happening, he's gonna or she is going to have to pay 60 days back, fasting 60 days consecutively. That's 2 months for the 1 day. And if he's unable to do this, then he should feed 60 poor people. And if one is unable to do this as well, the kafara will remain a debt upon him. So you're still going to have that debt if you won't be able to pay it back. And like with the 60 days, they're saying if you have to fast 60 days consecutively, right? So let's make an example. So now I fasted 10 days, right? I must now pay my kafara. I fasted 10 days and I skipped day 11. As soon as you skip in between, you're going to have to start your fasting again and counting over from the beginning again. All right, that's why they say consecutively. It has to be one after the other, no breaks in between. That is the penalty that you have to pay for that. All right. Fidya compensation. A very old or terminally ill person who does not have the strength to fast and has no hope of recovering after Ramadan should give fidya for each fast missed in Ramadan. So the fidya of each fast is 0.5 liters of the staple food of the locality. So depending on what the staple food is, some people's staple food is rice, some people's staple food is bread, some people's staple food is milli meal. So it depends on the locality, all right? That you're going to give 0.1 liter of staple food of the locality, which must be given to the poor. And if he happens to regain strength to fast after Ramadan, you will not have to keep the qada, only the fidya will have to be discharged. No one can fast on behalf of another person as long as he is alive. So I can't ask you to, can you pass my 5 days back for me? We can't do something like that, right? We have to pay back our own fast. So if a person missed some fast and passed away without keeping the qada, despite being able to make up for it, then his guardian can discharge the fidya or keep the qada on his behalf. This is only after the person has passed away. But as long as you're alive, you're going to have to pay back your own days. Okay, etiquettes of Ramadan. Etiquettes of Ramadan. So what we should do or try to do in the holy month of Ramadan, inshallah, is increasing one's generosity toward one's own family and others as well. And then increasing the recitation of the Holy Quran, performing Tarawih Salah, making abundant dua, exerting oneself in performance of optional acts of worship, performing umrah if possible, observing i'tikaf, especially during the last 10 days of Ramadan, providing food, water, etc. to those who are fasting at the time of iftar, and abstaining from speaking unnecessarily, wasting time, and eating doubtful foods, being vulgar, rude, irritable, boastful, or arrogant, speaking lies, backbiting, gossiping, arguing, fighting, and swearing, committing sin, major or minor, causing inconvenience to others. So those are the things we should try and stay away from. And the top shows us what we should try and do in abundance, inshallah. So yeah, it's just a few virtues of Ramadan that I would like to add. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "My ummah has been given 5 special things not given to anyone before them. That is, the smell from the mouth of the fasting Muslim is sweeter to Allah than the fragrant smell of musk. The fish in the sea seeks forgiveness on the behalf until they break their fast. Allah prepares and decorates his special Jannah every day and then says to it, the time is near when my faithful servant shall cast aside the tribulations of the world and come to you. And in this month, the rebellious shayateen, Satans, the devils are chained, and so as not to provoke those evil which they normally do during the month other than Ramadan. So on the last night of Ramadan, the fasting Muslims are forgiven. The Sahaba thereupon inquired, O Messenger of Allah, O Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is that the night of Laylatul Qadr? Then Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied, no, but it is only right that a servant should be given his reward on having completed his duties. So these are the 5 favors that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed upon us and that was not given to any other nation before us when we are fasting. Alhamdulillah. Some more virtues. Abu Ubaidah reports that I have heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying fasting is a protective shield for man as long as he does not tear up that protection. Tearing up the protection would be like maybe speaking vulgar, doing things that you're not supposed to do when fasting. Okay. So all those things that they said on the previous slide that I mentioned that should not be done. Those are the things that will break the protection for this fast. And then another one, Ubaidah bin Samit radiallahu anhu reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that one day when Ramadan has drawn near, in the month of Ramadan, the month of blessings has come upon you, wherein Allah turns towards you and sends down to you his special mercy, forgives your faults, accepts your praise, appreciates your competing for greatest good, and boast to the angels about you. So show to Allah your righteousness. For verily the most pitiable and unfortunate one is he who is deprived of Allah's mercy in this month. So we should try our utmost best to do good in the month of Ramadan and stay away from evil. We do not want to waste our time and be of those unfortunate ones. So i'tikaf, what is i'tikaf? I'tikaf means to stay in the masjid even for a few moments with the intention of gaining proximity, closeness, nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So staying in the masjid, that is for men. Women can stay in their home in the corner of the room or one corner of the house and can make i'tikaf that way. All right, you don't have to go to the masjid. You can make i'tikaf that way. So fard or wajib, if one vow to make i'tikaf and then he will be obliged to fulfill it. So if you are already making an intention for i'tikaf, then you're going to have to try and fulfill it. Okay? And if he had vowed to make i'tikaf for a special period of time, that is for one day, he will have to fulfill it accordingly. So whatever your vow was, or your intention was, if it was 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, you are going to have to fulfill that accordingly, inshallah. So if no time was specified, i'tikaf for any duration of the time will be sufficient to fulfill the vow. However, it will be preferable to make i'tikaf for 1 day, that is 24 hours. Sunnah. So Sunnah Mu'akkada. I'tikaf is Sunnah Mu'akkada in the last 10 days of Ramadan. I'tikaf begins at the time of sunset of the night before the 21st day of Ramadan until the end of the month. Mustahab. It is mustahab to make i'tikaf as often as possible. And if a person enters the masjid and makes intention of i'tikaf, he stays in the masjid, will be regarded as i'tikaf. There is no limit for mustahab i'tikaf. The following intention may be made for mustahab i'tikaf. نويت الاعتكاف لله تعالى ما دمت في المسجد. That means I intend making i'tikaf for Allah's pleasure as long as I am in the masjid, or you can write as long as you are in the home fil bayt, okay, in your house. Conditions of i'tikaf. We need to be a Muslim, we need to be sane, we must be pure from Hadath al-Akbar, that is major impurity, to make the intention for i'tikaf, to be in a masjid, or for women at home, to stay in the masjid for a few moments, or women at home. And then the masail, the laws of i'tikaf for males and female are the same, which is not permissible for male and female to observe i'tikaf in any place other than the masjid. This is more for a male. For women, you can have i'tikaf one corner in your house at home. It is makruh for women to observe i'tikaf at the masjid. They're saying that we should not go to the masjid and do i'tikaf, rather do it at home. So if a person experiences a wet dream, and then he should take a bath immediately. Those are a few masails on the condition of i'tikaf. So acts pertaining to i'tikaf. So eating as long as the masjid does not get soiled. So obviously when we're in the masjid, we must make sure that we do not mess up the place. So this is acts pertaining to i'tikaf. And then sleeping, discussing religious matters, engaging in business and talking talking regarding worldly matters to the extent of necessity. Okay, the acts that will nullify or break your i'tikaf. Number one is sexual intercourse, experiencing hayd or nifas, exiting the masjid intentionally without any valid excuse. If he exits the masjid forgetfully or due to a valid excuse, then the i'tikaf will not break. Delaying unnecessarily when going to relieve oneself. Example, stopping to speak to someone, etc. Okay, so when you're on i'tikaf, we must try our utmost best not to speak unnecessary things, speak about worldly things. It's more about connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yeah, just being in that form of worship, form of ibadah. All right, then acts that nullify itikaf continues. So coming out to perform a janaza salah. So for instance, maybe somebody in the family has passed away while you are in itikaf. So when you leave the masjid to go to the janaza salah, that will break your itikaf. And then making wudu outside of the masjid when there are wudu facilities within the masjid. Messiah. If any of the above factors were found, then the i'tikaf terminates immediately. And if one wishes to continue the i'tikaf, then it will be necessary for him to renew the intention. There is no qada due to the breaking of the i'tikaf. So obviously, if it's a course of janaza, in a case of janaza or so on, there's no way where we can't, we have to go to our family's janaza, right? So that is not on him. That wasn't his fault, right? So he can just go back and renew his intention and continue with his i'tikaf. Okay. Mu'takif. A mu'takif is a person who is on i'tikaf. That is the name for a person who is on i'tikaf. So, mu'takif leaving the masjid. The mu'takif is permitted to leave the masjid in the following situation. That is for a fard ghusl, for a fard wudu, to eat even if the food is available in the masjid, to relieve himself, to drink water if there is no water available in the masjid, to make wudu if there are no facilities within the masjid. So the Messiah is, it is not necessary to walk hastily when going out to relieve oneself, etc. It is permissible to leave the masjid to relieve oneself if one has the need to do so, even if it is not urgent. If a person has to be relieved himself consistently due to an illness, etc., then also the i'tikaf will be valid. And if he got so sick that he no longer able to stay in the masjid or fear soiling the masjid, then it is permissible for him to terminate his i'tikaf. Okay, things to do during or while you are on i'tikaf. So a mu'takif, that is the person on i'tikaf, should engage himself in recitation of the Holy Quran, Durood Sharif, Istighfar, Nafil Salah, you must make a lot of dhikr, learning the knowledge of deen, or any other action that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just gaining that closeness and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so our lesson is complete. Now, if anybody have any questions regarding Ramadan or i'tikaf or any masail or rulings, inshallah, you are welcome to send me a message either in the chat or you can WhatsApp me.